Good evening and a warm welcome to the Rushcliffe Borough Council's council meeting. I will pass over to the Chief Executive to explain some procedural requirements for the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to remind everyone that the meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. A recording of the meeting will be available afterwards on the council's YouTube channel. In addition, other people may film, record, post on social media or blog from this meeting. The use of any such images or sound recordings is not under the council's control. Any councillor who wishes to speak should raise their hand and your request will be noted. You will be asked to speak in turn by the Mayor, and then you may turn on your microphone. Once you have finished speaking, would you please turn off your microphone? Please note that there will also be a recorded vote for the budget item. When the roll call is required, councillors' names will be called out alphabetically by the monitoring officer. Please confirm your vote by saying for, against, or abstain. In respect of voting on any other item, when asked by the Mayor, councillors should raise their hand to indicate how they wish to vote. If a roll call is requested, councillors' names will be called out as previously referred to. A councillor may raise a point of order or make a personal explanation at any time by raising their hand, and the Mayor will hear them immediately, and his ruling on the matter will be final. During any debate, if the Mayor stands, any councillor speaking at the time must stop and sit down. Everyone in the room must be silent. I would also like to remind councillors to ensure that speeches must be directed to the matter under debate only. During the evening, at the Mayor's discretion, we'll be taking a short 5-minute break at an appropriate time. I'd also like to remind you, if this evening goes on to the end of the night, then we'd need to leave through the doors at the back of the room, not through the leisure centre, as they will be alarmed. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite Father Tom Merrick to open the meeting with a prayer.
A couple of prayers. The first one, recalling the state of the world at the moment and praying for peace and those in trouble. Almighty God, we turn to you as we witness the rising conflicts and the fear laid upon ordinary lives. Trusting in your steadfast love, we hold before you the people of the Middle East, in communities already stretched beyond endurance. We remember before you all whose hearts are filled with dread. Surround them with your protection, be a fortress for those who cannot flee, and a shield for those whose work is to heal and to hope. Open paths for wisdom, restraint, and justice where none seem possible. Give courage to peacemakers and teach us to stand with those who suffer, to pray without ceasing, and to hope even now in your redeeming love. Amen. And a prayer which bears the title before a borough council meeting. O eternal Lord and God, from whom alone cometh wisdom and understanding, we beseech thee to direct aright the minds of those who are about to take counsel together on matters pertaining to the common life of this borough, that in all their deliberations and decisions they may faithfully discharge the duties of their office, and ever promote the health, the safety and the well-being of those whom they seek to serve, for the honour and glory of thy holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Father Tom. Item 1, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies?
Thank you, Mayor. We've received apologies from councillors Billing, Bird, Gowland and Matthews.
Item 2, declarations. Item 2, declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to be made? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare an interest in motion 2 of agenda item 13, namely the development framework SPD for the east of Gamston, north of Tolleton strategic housing site. I will be presenting a report on this to Cabinet on the 10th of March, and therefore any comments that I make to this motion this evening will be of a general nature, limited, with an open mind and with no predetermination position ahead of that Cabinet meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item 3, to approve as a correct record of minutes of the meetings of the council held on the 20th and 27th of November 2025. So, Councillor Clark, will you move the minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pleasure in moving those minutes.
Thank you. Mayor, Councillor Brennan, will you second the minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the minutes.
Thank you. All in favour? I declare the vote carried. Oh, sorry. Jumping it. Anyone against? Abstentions? I'll now declare the vote carried. Thank you. Item 4, Mayor's announcements. Given the number of items being considered on the agenda this evening, I will keep my announcements short. On the 10th of February, the Deputy Mayor and I hosted the afternoon tea in the Mayor's Parlour for 12 volunteers from Eastleek Community Association to celebrate the group winning the King's Award for voluntary service. It was a very enjoyable afternoon talking to the volunteers and hearing about the valuable work they do. I also recently attended the fundraising concert in support of the Ukrainian school band, which performed alongside special guests, celebrating talent, culture and community, whilst raising funds to support Ukrainian children and cultural education. Item 5, leaders' announcements. Councillor Clark, have you any announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just a few, a good, sad, and then a good again. So first of all, I would like to just, on behalf of the councillors, welcome Sarah Pragan, our monitoring officer, back from her absence for quite some time, but I know that her recovery is going well. She's looking fantastic, and I hope your recovery completes pretty soon. So great welcome back. On the slightly sadder side, former councillor Jean Smith died recently. Although she was a great stalwart for the Conservative Association, she did serve as a borough councillor on this council for a term, so she will be greatly missed as well. Then also I just turned to one of our employees, very long-standing employees, and by long-standing I mean 40 years. Keith Sayers has been working, I was going to say working for Streetwise, but working for the technical departments throughout those 40 years. He first joined us in 1986. He first started working on the ash bins, and that was before wheelie bins came into being. But he is now a driver. He reckons he's covered about 240,000 miles in his time. And somebody said that he's collected about 1 billion items. I'm not quite sure how, or who's been counting, but there we go. He's certainly been around all of those 40 years and has done a lot of hard work. So the depot has recognised him, but I think we'll have a conversation with the mayor and the chief exec, and we'll find an appropriate way for us to recognise that tremendous term of service as well. And I'm sure we all join in thanking him for excellent service over those years. And then just to mention that we had some great Lunar New Year celebrations here in this very building, spread around both this room and into Studio 3 and into the Leisure Centre, and that went extremely well and was very well received. A bit noisy at times, Mr. Mayor, but we managed to get through it, so that was great. That's my announcements. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Item 6, Chief Executive's announcements. Mr. Hill, have you any announcement?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only just the one again to echo the leader's comments in welcoming Sarah back, but also to thank Rachel for her hard work during the time in Sarah's absence. She's done a brilliant job in terms of supporting the council and our members. So I think it's only right that we also pay those respects. So thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 7, citizens' questions. No questions have been received. Item 8, petitions. Item 8, petitions. No petitions have been received. For this item, it is proposed that the speaking times be extended to permit the excuse me, the mover of the report 15 minutes to speak and 7.5 minutes for the seconder and other group leaders to make their budget statements. Can the meeting please confirm their agreement by show of hands? Councillor Clark, will you move the report? Would you have 15 minutes?
Thank you indeed, Mr. Mayor. I have pleasure in presenting this budget for 2026-27 and the medium-term financial strategy and the accompanying appendices, along with the authoritative commentary from the Council's Section 151 officer. That's today. I would like to thank in particular Peter Linfield and his finance team and Councillor Birdie, finance portfolio holder, for their hard work in producing this budget paper under circumstances which would be even more challenging.
Can you put your speak, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You don't want me to start again, do you? No. Oh, thank you. Sure. The emphasis on the funding allocations is on deprivation, population growth and demand. Nothing is referenced about those that are winners that also have a history of poor financial management. Anyone would think the government is looking to eradicate district councils, and they have certainly forgotten the great work councils such as Rushcliffe has done, like for instance through COVID and the swift allocation of business grants, and continue to do. As the report highlights, we are proposing a council tax freeze for 2026-27. This reduces the level of recurring income compared with an increase at the referendum threshold, but the council's continued prudent financial management does allow our proposal to work. Yes, we could generate more income by raising council tax, but we have balanced this with the fact we have had ongoing increases in council tax over time. And it is the financial pressures our residents face at the moment that have very much influenced this decision this evening. At a time of sharply rising prices and costs, we need to do all we can to help our hard-pressed residents in keeping their costs down. Council tax will therefore remain at £161.77 or £3.11 per week, much less than a good cup of coffee on the high street. I should also add, for the record, we are also approving the special expenses budget as part of this report. The figures for a Band D council tax level for the special expense areas have modest increases and are set out in recommendation F of the report. I would like to comment on West Bridgford. Compared to other parish and town councils, generally its local tax is not unduly high, and the events and facilities provided in West Bridgford are excellent. I want to particularly highlight and thank the events team for their amazing efforts in organising the events for the borough. They are highly welcomed by residents. I know the West Bridgford Special Expenses Group have worked diligently to support this budget over the past few years. Rushcliffe will remain for its elements of council tax in the lowest 25% in England and the lowest in Nottinghamshire. This is something we all should take pride in, as I do, and not to look to denigrate with other statistics which are quite frankly misleading and confusing for the public. The Band D comparison is the national benchmark the government uses, and I think it is worth reminding all councillors across the chamber that that is the accepted yardstick. This 2026-27 budget proposal remains balanced, and I am confident, based on current forecasts and the council's established record of delivering efficiencies and prudent financial management, the position remains manageable. This freeze does not place the council at risk, and reserves remain assessed as adequate. So no talk of Section 114 notices like some other councils. We are intent that this council retains a legacy of excellent financial management with no detriment to the excellent services to our residents. This is despite what the government continues to fire in our direction as we await the outcome of local government reorganisation and the move to an anticipated new authority. I'm sure all councillors will support the proposals to introduce a council tax discount for the terminally ill as we continue to look to protect some of the most vulnerable in our community. We have also decided to review the second homes premium and understand its effectiveness further and the revocation of this policy. Both of these items are intended to go to scrutiny for further review later this year. As was forecast, we have been hit with a significant business rates reduction as a result of the business rates reset. A £4 million or 60% reduction to £2.675 million. Furthermore, there is no longer any new homes bonus. The settlement does not reward those authorities committed to economic growth in their areas and also the funding required to support such growth. Despite this, the benefit still commits itself to further economic growth and ensuring Rushcliffe remains a great place to live, work and play. Our commitment to economic growth and supporting our local businesses remains strong. It is likely businesses will suffer as they feel the impact of rising property valuations and changes in business rates multipliers, which may not offset such increases. This is the government's policy and not the council's policy, but unfortunately businesses will receive bills with the Rushcliffe branding when we are just the banker passing it on. Risks remain with the budget, not least concerning LGR and also the wider economy and the impact on inflation and interest rates. International conflict is heightening once again, and it's worrying for all of us. Our thoughts and prayers are with the innocent victims of such conflict. And Mr. Mayor, there are far too many conflicts around the world at the moment. The budget does mitigate such risks, whether through contingency, use of reserves or budget efficiencies. Services themselves are having to deliver massive change linked to government policy. Simpler recycling is one such example. And unfortunately, as exemplified at section 4.2 of the budget, by 2030-31, there will be an £879,000 deficit as a result of this policy that has to be funded from other council resources. Consistently, this government is underfunding its own initiatives. It is through our own excellent financial management, our overall financial picture looks relatively healthy, despite the best efforts of this government to undermine our finances. The change in funding formula has led to more revenue support grants to help offset reductions I've already detailed. Although this reduces from 4.72 million in 26-27 to 2.5 million in 28-29. Our financial resilience is maintained by our own ability to raise income with a commercial ethos. Any economic downturn does create risk. For example, planning income is expected to dip. Our range of income streams, though, means such risks are diversified and mitigated. A good example is the crematorium, an excellent facility and service which is on the rise. Furthermore, our transformation and efficiency programme is in place to help improve services and provide better value for money for taxpayers. There are also big changes afoot as Eastleigh Leisure Centre comes out of the PFI scheme. As LGR approaches, it will create further pressure on services and will be a huge transformation in its own right, with a £2.9 million reserve in place for 2028-29. Section 6 of the budget details the position on earmarked reserves. That's reserves that are in place for a specific reason. These focus on helping manage big risks and opportunities. Economic development opportunities for regeneration and community projects across the borough. Climate change reserve, again, for the benefit of all. Vehicle replacement, so we can continue to deliver excellent services with reliable modern vehicles such as refuse collection and street cleansing. More money into our leisure centre reserve so we continue to lead the way in health and well-being provision for residents, and so on and so forth. We are committed to fund economic growth master plan work for our main settlements across the borough. Ratcliffe-on-Trent is advanced, and we now wish to look at Eastleigh and then what can be done in Ruddington and Keyworth, and £400,000 in grants to support football pitches across the borough. We have in previous years invested heavily in regeneration in Cotgrave already. One of the key components of our financial strategy is to avoid borrowing. Money is better spent on services rather than repaying the costs of debt. This council remains debt-free and will be debt-free until LGR. This will certainly be one of our financial legacies. The council still retains an ambitious capital programme of £24.3 million over 5 years. Again, the programme demonstrates our commitment to excellent services and facilities for our residents across the borough, again with a focus on supporting the more vulnerable in our community and also improving the environment. In concluding, Mr. Mayor, as with all councils, we are under financial pressure. Unlike many, we are not making service reductions and indeed look to continue and improve our services and grow our borough. Our sound finances are backed up by having a virtually balanced budget over 5 years and up-to-date financial accounts signed off by the council's external auditors. Excellent governance is the backbone of any well-run local authority, and we know when governance goes wrong what the implications are. Just look at some local authorities not so far away. We have worked hard over a long period of time to ensure we have a commercial culture, we generate financial efficiencies and are forward-looking. This council has a history of being brave, but not reckless, and has not made some of the poor financial decisions other councils have. The outcome of fair funding means our worst fears have come to pass, but we are in a good place prior to LGR to continue providing excellent services and maintain our stable finances. I hope everyone will vote to support the budget, which is both excellent for residents and for businesses. If I look across the chamber, there is something for all of you to get behind, including continued investment in carbon reduction initiatives, low council tax with the freeze and continued capital investment for all, the introduction of a council tax discount for the terminally ill and looking afresh at the second homes charge, continued investment in leisure centres, housing grants for the vulnerable and 3G football grants and investing in our core services such as refuse, etc. Economic growth and master planning support available for those major settlements that require the support. No debt, so expenditure is focused on service provision and not wasted on expensive interest costs. This budget benefits all, delivers the council's core priorities, ensuring Rushcliffe remains a great place with great lifestyle and great sport. I therefore commend this budget to this chamber. I move the recommendations as set out on pages 21 and 22, points A to little j. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Purdy, will you second the report? It's 7.5 minutes, or you can reserve your right to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm delighted to second this report, and I'll reserve the right to speak.
Councillor Thomas, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'd like to thank the officers for all their patient assistance while we've been working on our alternative budget. I'd also like to thank Councillor Verdi for taking forward our suggestion to provide tax relief for terminally ill residents in line with the National Marie Curie campaign. So, in an ever more desperate attempt to harvest votes in the upcoming elections, the Conservatives are proposing to freeze the council tax. This will save a Band D property £4.59 for the year, enough for one nice cup of coffee. Every little helps, of course. But this
Thomas, sorry to interrupt you, but could you just speak a bit better into the microphone, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
But this hardly tackles the cost of living crisis, as the Conservatives are claiming. Our group has 3 proposals in our alternative budget. Firstly, West Bridgford has essentially been given a loan from Rushcliffe to meet the cost of running its facilities. They're paying us back over 3 years. We are proposing increasing this repayment rate slightly so that the debt is cleared by the time the new council takes over. It seems reasonable to us that this is done so that West Bridgford gets back to the situation whereby it pays for itself rather than borrowing from Rushcliffe. Areas with town and parish councils have to balance their books, and so should West Bridgford, not least because the special expense is very reasonable compared to what some areas pay in their parish precept. We fully support those in West Bridgford who feel it's time for them to have a town council. West Bridgford has its own identity and sense of community and should have the ability to make its own decisions about its future with democratically elected representation. This will be even more important when reorganisation reduces the overall number of councillors elected to represent them. The special expense needs to be on a firm financial footing to be ready for this. The second change is to reverse the decision to freeze the council tax for 1 year. Instead, we propose to raise it up to the referendum cap. The freeze is just a political stunt and not in the best interest of Rushcliffe's residents long term. The budget proposed by the Conservatives would hand over to the new council a deficit budget with no plan to bring it back into balance. Our proposal brings the deficit budget in 2027-28 into surplus. There's still a deficit budget for 28-29, although it's reduced, but this turns back into an overall surplus after 5 years. Rushcliffe has a proud boast that we run our affairs prudently. To put a dent in the finances for electoral popularity, just as we are about to cease to exist, is not the way we go about things. What's more, Cabinet are complaining endlessly that the money the government has given Rushcliffe is not enough and unfair. We've heard this yet again tonight from Councillor Clark. Yet on the other hand, they freeze the council tax to demonstrate that we don't need any more funding. This will hardly put Rushcliffe at the front of the queue next time funding settlements are put together, will it? Why would we expect to get more from the government if we're sacrificing over £1 million over 5 years by not raising council tax to cover our increased costs? Plus, of course, the freeze will also put us at the back of the queue for any grant funding. The third part of our proposal is to do with investment in our local centres. This is one of the council's strategic objectives. Over the years, money has been spent in West Bridgford, Bingham and Cochrane. The budget proposes £1 million capital for an investment in Radcliffe-on-Trent Centre, the details of which will be discussed at Cabinet next week behind closed doors. To be fair, we agree with the principle that the new homes bonus that Rushcliffe has received for building houses over the past 10 years should be used to improve infrastructure local to the places where the homes have been built. We've made enough fuss over the years that East Leeds infrastructure hasn't had a penny from the substantial sum Rushcliffe has received for our new homes. The new homes bonus would have been enough to provide an investment pot to allow Rushcliffe to adopt the open space and other facilities on the new estates and maintain it going forward, instead of which the new residents are subjected to unregulated management charges on top of their council tax. But we're not going to begrudge Radcliffe new infrastructure from the new homes bonus piggy bank. By way of crumbs, Eastleigh has been thrown £50,000 to help us progress a master plan. We feel that equal sums should be put aside for Keyworth and Ruddington so that going forward this whole process has some solidity. So that's our third budget proposal. And it would earmark an additional £100,000 of new homes bonus. We would like to see this funding backed up by a return of the growth boards or some other body to provide regular oversight to ensure that the aim to invest in our local centres continues to move forward in a strategic rather than opportunistic way and will cover all the centres in time. We do hope that you can all agree that these three proposals are fair and reasonable and that we hope that you'll vote for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Way, will you second? There is 5 minutes for to speak or reserve the right to speak.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I second this motion and I'll reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Councillor Birch, would you like to speak? Seven and a half minutes, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And firstly, I'd like to welcome Sarah back. Thank you. And I would also like to thank financial team, in particular Peter Linfield and Katie Brennan. Although our amended budget is modest, we did bring it late in the day. We recognise all the help you gave us, very prompt, very detailed replies, and that is genuinely appreciated. So thank you. So what we've tried to do this evening is bring a sensible budget. We recognise that the Conservative budget is going to get passed. So we've kept that intact, and we don't agree with everything in there. We do agree with some things, but not everything. But we've kept that intact. And what we're trying to do is suggest some sensible additional efficiencies, which will allow us not only to freeze council tax, but to actually have a council tax reduction. And I would just like to say, I was unaware until Councillor Thomas spoke that the policy on terminally ill terminally ill people was a League of Independence idea. I don't believe they were given credit in Councillor Clark's speech, but I think that's a wonderful policy and it's a great idea. So what are we suggesting we say? Well, we're cutting the fat. We think we should not be paying for members' catering allowances. So we are proposing to eradicate that in its entirety. Why should the taxpayer pay for mince pies for us and Prosecco at a time like this? We're saying get rid of that entirely. We're saying reduce staff, what's called the HR budgeting allowance. So we're not eradicating it entirely, but we're saying reduce it. And that will have the effect, obviously, of helping reduce tax. It's non-essential spending, it's discretionary spending. Why should the taxpayer pay for, quote, summer socials and new starter breakfast? I'm all for staff morale. I'm all for that. But if you're a plumber, if you're a carpenter, if you're an electrician, you don't get a new starter breakfast. So that is what we're saying. We're not saying eradicate that budget entirely. We're saying just reduce it. And the last big saving is reducing the number of times Rushcliffe Reports publication is sent out from twice a year to once a year. Again, this is a non-statutory document. There are no legal requirements to send it, excuse me. So we're saying reduce that from twice a year to once a year. I think that we can get all the information we need to get across with one publication per year. And in fact, I actually think we could get it out on a double-sided A5 flyer. But we're saying reduce that and again, pass those savings on to residents. So the only thing that you could potentially criticise with this budget would be that by reducing tax, we are reducing our tax base for future years. But that argument would only apply if the savings weren't put in place. And of course, the savings are there and some. So our budget not only proposes a tax cut, it will decrease the deficit relative to your position. So in other words, we can reduce taxes for residents and put the deficit in a better position than you're proposing to put it. And you've got an opportunity tonight as the Rushcliffe Conservatives to vote for a tax cut for Rushcliffe's residents. We are giving you that opportunity. There are no impacts on frontline services. This is non-essential spending. So I'll come on to what else I want to say when I have my right of reply at the end. But I'll just touch on a couple of things that Councillor Clark has already mentioned about being in the lowest quartile for tax. I say this every year. I can see you smiling, Councillor Walker. All right, okie dokie. I do say it every year. But the facts are we have the highest council tax per household in Nottinghamshire as a direct result of having a disproportionately high number of high band council tax properties. So they are the facts. And yes, I fully agree that the Band D metric is the standard metric, but it doesn't tell the whole picture. And to try and, frame that as some sort of irregular way of presenting the data or sneaky or anything like that, I think is incorrect. I think it's getting at the truth. We are blessed at this council. We have 40% of Nottinghamshire's higher band council tax properties with 10% of the population. We are absolutely blessed. We've won the local council lottery, and I do think that context is important. So I do hope you will take the opportunity to follow our lead and cut taxes for Rushcliffe's hard-working residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. Councillor Chewings, will you second? And you have a right to reserve if you wish, or 5 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Please second, and I will reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. I have 3 speakers. Start, Councillor Jen Walker, would you like to speak? Thank you.
Thank
7.5 minutes. Okay.
7.5.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I'm told.
Thank you.
Doing my job out.
Yeah, it'll be fast. I want to begin by saying that I had hoped to stand here this evening presenting an alternative budget, one that did more than just balance the books, one that sees the opportunity presented by the new government funding to be ambitious for our borough. We have, for the very first time in a very long time, a window of opportunity. New government funding streams are emerging that could allow councils like ours to use our resources in fairer ways. to think longer term and to think more strategically about how we strengthen our local economy and support our most vulnerable residents. One of the centerpieces of the alternative budget I had hoped to bring forward was the beginning of a local power plan, a practical, deliverable program that would allow this council to generate renewable energy for our own use and for our communities. It also gives us the opportunity to support existing groups in energy generation. Not only would that reduce our long-term energy costs and protect residents from volatile markets, but it also creates skilled local jobs and contribute meaningfully to our climate commitments. A local power plan is an investment in resilience, energy security, financial prudence, and puts production into public ownership. Secondly, I would have prioritised the improvement of sporting facilities across the more deprived areas of our borough. The government are accepting applications for £85 million worth of funding to be distributed in 26-27, with a particular focus on improving facilities for women and for girls. Sport is part of our strapline, and yet we have no commitment in this budget to use the new government funds that will help. Youth sports is a preventative health policy, youth engagement, and community cohesion rolled into one. With strategic investment, we could continue to modernise our facilities, attract regional competitions, and give young people safe and inspiring spaces to thrive. Thirdly, I would have sought to allocate new funding directly towards addressing homelessness in our district, with a specific focus on women who have suffered domestic violence. We are an accredited White Ribbon Council, and yet it seems to stop at performative ribbon wearing in council meetings and not tapping into the newly released central government funding when it's available. We know that domestic abuse is one of the leading causes of homelessness among women. If we're serious about prevention, we must provide targeted, trauma-informed housing pathways, emergency accommodation, and long-term support tailored specifically to survivors. Quite simply, a commitment to a borough-wide housing policy that includes keeping survivors off the streets is what we should be working towards, not patting ourselves on the back for remembering our ribbons on council meetings. Turning to the budget before us, I do welcome the inclusion of the new £1 million allocated for Ratcliffe-on-Trent. Ratcliffe-on-Trent is a growing and ambitious community. It actually holds quite a special place in my heart, as it's where my in-laws were kind of lived and where I lived when I came to the UK. And this investment provides an opportunity to shape future infrastructure, public realm and local services in a coordinated and forward-thinking way. Strategic master planning prevents piecemeal development and ensures growth, works for residents. But why do we stop there? If we can commit £1 million to support the future vision of Ratcliffe-on-Trent, then we should also be looking to make the same commitments to the other major villages and growth areas across our district. Communities such as Reddington, Eastleigh and Keyworth are experiencing significant change and development pressures. They too deserve clear, well-funded master planning process, one that addresses transport, community infrastructure, green spaces, local economies and public service. £50,000 has been allocated to West Bridgford, again, after being shelved last year. Will the emphasis on Radcliffe now mean that attention has again been diverted and we'll be sitting here asking the same questions of why West Bridgford's funding is to be carried over? A more transparent and collaborative exercise with all councillors in this chamber about the strategic investment of funds would have ensured it was not predominantly concentrated in one location alone, but distributed much more fairly. We have no evidence before us as to why Ratcliffe-on-Trent was the only village in this budget to be granted such a large windfall, but it does lead to much speculation in this chamber and beyond. Now let me turn to council tax. We're told that freezing the borough council element of this council tax is a way to support residents. But let us be honest with ourselves and with the public. The borough council tax element accounts for roughly 5% of the total council tax bill residents receive. Freezing that 5% portion may make an attractive headline, but it does not fundamentally change the financial pressures households are facing from much larger elements set elsewhere. If we can freeze our share, then it rather suggests that we have not done too badly out of the fair funding review and at the recent wider local government settlements. We should not pretend that a freeze on our small proportion of the bill is transformational. In fact, that sum is so small compared to the transformational effect that it would have had it been collected for the general improvement of our shared council. It makes me think we've lost the plot when it comes to the reasons we collect tax in the first place. In my mind, this risks drifting into performance politics, choosing the headline over conversation and collaboration. A modest increase ring-fence for target investment in homelessness prevention, women's refuge provision, modernising.
Just to say,
sports.
another 1 minute left. Okay.
Thank you. An investment in energy generation could arguably have delivered longer term benefits to our residents. We have the opportunity to help our council and communities build a local power plan that reduces bills, generates income, and systematically changes the way in which we generate and distribute energy, transform sporting facilities to improve public health and youth opportunity, deliver targeted, life-changing support for women fleeing domestic violence, a commitment to extending our massive planning beyond Ratcliffe-on-Trent to Reddington, Eastleigh, and Kew. Residents are not asking for grand, performative gestures. They're asking for visible improvements, for safer housing, for thriving high streets, for opportunities for their children, and for a council that plans rather than reacts. So while I recognise the work that has gone into producing this budget, I believe we could and should have been more ambitious. The Labour Group will continue to work constructively to challenge where necessary and to support measures that genuinely improve the lives of our residents.
Thank you, Councillor. That's the end.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Excuse me. The next person I've got on my list is Councillor Edavine. Would you like to speak? And you have 7.5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try not to take up 7.5 minutes. A couple of comments on the alternative budgets. I'm afraid I can't support what I call the bar humbug budget of the Rushcliffe Independents. I always find it strange when you say non-essential expenditure and you can cut that out with any impact. In my experience of organisations, it's quite often the soft spend that actually helps shape organisations and gives them their character. So I won't be supporting that one. With regard to the Eastleigh Independents budget, had I received it earlier than yesterday, I could probably have studied it a lot more. There's a lot of things in there I can agree with, but again, on balance, I believe that expenditure in West Bridgford is for the whole of the borough quite often, and I think that sort of binary, this is West Bridgford expenditure and it should be paying for itself, doesn't ring true with me. I do welcome the idea of making sure that key settlements are giving earmarked funds. But on balance, I personally will be supporting the budget proposed. My colleague probably won't be. I've got mixed feelings about the tax council freeze, because I think all the time I've been a councillor, I've always pointed out that you can't just keep increasing tax expenditure or the tax take when people's incomes aren't going up in line with the amount it's gone up. So, you know, I have argued in the past that we should be much more conservative in putting taxes up. But I do agree that it's actually, you know, to suddenly freeze our council tax after years of arguing that we should be putting council tax up is basically an electoral stunt. our bills come from, the bill comes from Rushcliffe, and it's the whole council tax that our residents see. So to say that our small portion, and thankfully small portion, is frozen, they don't recognise that, they don't see it. And again, I've argued that in the past. I welcome the review of the second home council tax premium, and I think I've made my opinions clear in the past that I don't think this is a good piece of legislation. It was done, I like to, well, to use a colloquialism, it was done by the last government on the back of a fag packet. The original legislation was actually mostly aimed at areas where there's a high amount of second homeowners, coastal areas, etc. And so to include it in Rushcliffe, where there's only 135 second homeowners, was really a bit of a disgrace in my opinion. I think what I would say, I welcome the fact that it's going to scrutiny. I think that I would ask all of the scrutiny people committee, when they debate it, to read the government guidelines on how, when and why this tax should be introduced. And I think you'll find it very easy to make the decision that we should not be charging this tax, because the government guidelines are quite clear that this should not be a tax for places like Rushcliffe. With regard to the investment in our communities, of course I welcome investment in our communities. But I think it came to a surprise to a lot of us that £1 million was being spent in Radcliffe-on-Trent on the master plan. There has been mention of the other communities, but there's no fixed amounts looking at Eastleigh and Keyworth and Ruddington, which are the communities that in my mind are missing out. So, I just find that deeply saddening. And I think, as Councillor Walker said, it's not, it has been noted outside that £1 million for Radcliffe-on-Trent, which is already a fairly vibrant community. There are other communities such as Keyworth and Eastleigh in particular who need that investment more. So I'm disappointed that that's not there in black and white. So in conclusion, I will be voting for the budget, but there are several things I don't like. I'm going to have to suck that one up. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor E. Devine. Councillor Mallender, would you like to speak? And you will have 7.5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to use the full 7.5 minutes. You'll be very pleased to hear, no doubt, possibly others who want to head off home sooner. Yes, thank you. It's very interesting to hear this kind of like almost smorgasbord of different proposals today. I think there's some things to be welcomed in the budget that's been proposed. There's some really good ideas being put forward by the Labour group here and by other folks behind me as well. I'll be following the debate with interest and seeing which way to vote. The thing that sort of gives me most concern overall is the fact that a few years down the line we won't be here to do this and have this debate for our local people, for our local residents. And this will be probably carried out initially by another council of whatever type, whatever hue, whatever size, probably initially of about 90 councillors. But looking at what's happened with the LGR across the rest of the country for other areas such as Northamptonshire, West and North Northamptonshire, that will end up being reduced to about 50 councillors, probably less, maybe less, but for an area that's from far, far larger and raw and remote from the decision making that our residents have become used to and that we as the local representatives are able to provide for them. I think they will miss that. I think they will miss the expertise of the officers at this local level as well. That said, I think there's some good ideas for investment. I'm pleased to see that the climate change monies are still included there as well. I like the idea of the local energy company that's been proposed as well. I'd love to see some investment by the local authority itself in housing. I think it's high time that we return to council housing to provide the kind of housing that's actually needed for our residents, affordable, decent, good, warm homes. I think that's the thing that we do need to see in Rushcliffe and elsewhere around the area as well. I also believe that, as has been mentioned others, that we do need to have a town council for
West Bridgeford as well. That's clearly been borne out by the work that myself and others have been doing across West Bridgeford over the last several months. It's a crucial part of local democracy, and I think that we're missing it from the current jigsaw that we have. That said, thank you to everyone who's put the various motions and budgets forward. Thanks for the officers, the work they've done, and I await the outcome with interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mallender. Would any other councillors like to speak on the matter? And you will have 5 minutes if you wish to speak. Thank you. Councillor Plant. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to speak, I've heard that before, but Councillor Clark's comments just annoyed me so much in terms of the unfair funding and the whatever that you'll hear a lot of repetition, but I'm sorry, I'm just annoyed. I would thank the Finance Office for their very thorough reports. They're a very good read and they really obviously took a lot of time to put in place. But however, throughout the text throughout the reports bemoans constantly the poor deal Rushcliffe has received from the government. And I quote, "The government's updated methodology emphasises deprivation, which disadvantages more financially stable districts such as Rushcliffe." I mean, the government's updated methodology is fairer funding. The clue is in the name. It's based on levels of deprivation and need. Rushcliffe is ranked 538 out of 430 districts in the 2025 indices of deprivation. Therefore, as an affluent borough with little deprivation, under a fairer funding methodology, we will receive less funding. The budget report then describes it as a policy of choice to freeze the council tax for 26-27 at its present rate. That has nothing to do with government funding. It's a policy of choice. They've chosen to do it. This means the council will lose around 0.24 million per annum and 1.225 million over 5 years, a cumulative loss. The report states that this is affordable because of Rushcliffe's excellent financial position as a result of past prudent financial decisions taken by this council. A council tax freeze would benefit the average Band D council taxpayer by £4.59 per year. I don't drink coffee, but I'm told it's about the price of an average cup of coffee. The Section 151 officer report goes on to say that the MTFS assumes ongoing increases in council tax to the maximum referendum limit allowable from 2027 to 2028 onwards. The maximum from then onwards. But for this year, we don't, no increase at all. We just freeze it. And that's obviously both prudent and sensible given the operational and financial challenges the council faces. So why a council tax freeze for 26-27? Is that prudent and sensible? It seems more like an unnecessary piece of performance politics that will make little difference to the residents' cost of living struggles. Could well impact the delivery of our future services going forward, but it allows Rushcliffe again to announce that it has the lowest council tax in Nottinghamshire and is in the lowest quartile in comparison to districts nationally in the country. I think the residents of Rushcliffe deserve better, and I think they will see this for what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Plumb. I've now got on my list Councillor Polenta, and that's 5 minutes as well, please. Thank you.
So I agree with something with Councillor Clark. There are elements in the budget that we all agree, like investment in solar panels and heat pumps, in decarbonisation, in HVO vehicles and hopefully electric vehicles, in leisure centres, in accessible playgrounds, and the regeneration and master plan schemes. We see as well compulsory purchase powers being used to bring empty homes and buildings back into use, but unfortunately to be sold back instead of kept as part of the portfolio. And there is some additional support for disabled facility grants, and some services are also returned back in-house as PFI arrangements are brought to an end. These are all positive measures. Of course, we would have liked them to go further and faster, to be more redistributed and more targeted, but they are nonetheless steps in the right direction. However, when we talk about regenerations and master plans, we must talk also about transparency, about accountability, about democratic involvement. Too often, the prioritization of the projects and the decision-making around them do not seem to involve the whole council in a meaningful way, particularly ward councillors, let alone residents. And in areas like West Bridgford, as has been extensively mentioned, where there is no town council structure, resident engagement risks to become a box-ticking exercise rather than genuine participation in shaping the future of their town. So beyond the individual measure, what is really missing for this budget, in my opinion, is an overarching narrative, a transformative vision of a commons of municipalism, of participatory democracy and common ownership. Because behind this budget is a particular ethos that me personally, I cannot agree. Residents are often treated as service users or consumers rather than as active co-producers of the places where they live. It may be a fiscally prudent council, I cannot really judge it, yet one where the deeper democratic possibilities of local government remain untapped. Housing is perhaps one of the clearest examples, because a social housing provision sits with housing association, leaving the council and the community with limited control over the type of housing delivered, the accountability structures in place, and the meaningful role that tenants associations should play. In my opinion, redistribution should remain essential. Many people with broader shoulders would be prepared to contribute more through council tax if they knew that those resources would help to eradicate homelessness, to provide housing for all, to clear the backlog of disabled facility grants, to reduce waiting times, to invest in building universally accessible and sustainable homes for all. These are not simply expenditure or sales in a spreadsheet. They are investments in dignity, inequality, and social inclusion and justice. At the same time, we should think more broadly about community wealth building and municipal initiatives, particularly in the context of the climate crisis and energy insecurity. Municipal and community energy schemes allow councils and local community to collaborate in producing affordable, low-carbon energy while keeping the economic benefits within the local area. Councils can provide rooftop lands or building for community-owned solar generations. National initiatives are already emerging and that aim for every community in Britain to own a local energy project by 2030, and we should position ourselves within that movement. Housing must be treated as a fundamental human right, not simply an investment. And housing insecurity, as mentioned before, can trap people in abusive relationships, threatening young people with marginalized identities with homeless and deep existing inequalities. We are serious about preventing homelessness and rough sleeping. I would like to empower women.
You've got 1 minute left.
Yes, domestic violence. We must fully utilize national funding streams and work closely with the voluntary and community organizations that offer the first line of support for people in crisis. So ultimately, a budget is not a financial document, it's a moral document. The question before us is not simply how efficiently we manage our services. The question is whether we are prepared to govern differently. This means shifting power. It means deliberative assemblies where neighbors sit together, discuss trade-off, and decide collectively how resources should be used. It means participatory budgeting alongside local trade unions. Because when communities shape decisions, they defend them. When people share power, democracy becomes real. This is the direction and the paradigm we should be moving. This is the direction that this budget doesn't seem like is moving, and therefore.
Thank you. Councillor Solomon, 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the UK's strained economic climate and uncertainties on the outcome of LGR, I'm sure it's been a significant task to review finances and prepare the budget. So a huge thank you to the officers who've been involved in the preparation of it, and thank you to Councillor Verdi for all his work and involvement too. The decision to freeze Rushcliffe Borough Council's element of the council tax is incredibly welcome. I advocated strongly to freeze Rushcliffe Council's tax when I had a voice in the ruling councillor group, so I am genuinely pleased that the administration has taken this route. Rushcliffe has only been able to freeze its council tax because of its strong financial position, no external borrowing, a healthy general fund balance and nearly 2 million in efficiencies identified. I welcome continued investment in our leisure services, the Radcliffe-on-Trent Master Plan and West Bridgford Town Centres. These projects reflect long-term place shaping. I would like to see more investment for our other key centres too. And I am very pleased that compassionate measures, such as the proposed discount for the terminally ill, have been supported. That is absolutely the right thing to do. So thank you very much to the League Independents for putting that forward. However, Mr. Mayor, while council tax has been frozen, residents are not blind to issues around fees and charges creep. Green bin charges have increased from £45 to £49 since 24, a 8.9% rise in just 2 years. Second bin charges are difficult to justify purely on service delivery grounds. The infrastructure for collection already exists. It increasingly feels revenue driven. We're also seeing pressure through car parking charges, and I would like to advocate for charging hours in West Bridgford to be reduced to 6 p.m. rather than 8 p.m. to encourage families to go out and use our wonderful local facilities and restaurants there. So while council tax is frozen, residents are still paying more, just in a different way. But we must look at the structural pressures building into this budget. The introduction of mandatory food waste collection, currently costing the council nothing, is projected to add to the net annual pressure approaching £900,000 per year by the end of the decade. On top of that, national insurance is increased to 15%, coupled with the reduced threshold, and will cost this council around £300,000 a year. The government grant only covers a portion of that, so the remaining roughly 2/3 is an ongoing structural pressure on this authority, money that Rachel Reeves is taking directly from Rushcliffe residents and into the Treasury coffers, or rather using it to repay the country's debt interest, which is as a record 8% of government spending currently. We must also acknowledge the volatility in business rates, a reduction of over 4 million outside our control. All transition funding will end, and that risk does remain very real. So while I support the freezing of council tax and recognise the strong financial stewardship of this council, I do remain concerned about cumulative impacts of fees and charges creep, new statutory burdens such as food waste collection. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it costs a lot. Rising employment and national insurance costs. But as we approach local government reorganisation, Rushcliffe will enter from a good position. So freezing council tax matters,
Councillor Solomon.
but protecting the value residents receive for every pound they pay matters just as much. So I will be supporting the budget that is proposed, the main budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Solomon. I've got Councillor Upton, and there is 5 minutes for you as well. So.
We're on red. Thank you. This is a good budget, but much as I welcome the freezing council tax, I'd like to spend the few minutes I've got on focusing on the capital programme in Appendix 3, because I think it's something we can all be very proud of, and many councils would really envy it. So very briefly, I picked out a few projects, and I apologise to colleagues if I tread on their local ward. But first one I picked was Bingham Needham Street car parking resurfacing. You may think that's a small thing, but believe me, the public really notice this, because I go around the UK and park in car parks. Some are appalling, and keeping our assets like this in good condition, in my opinion, is very worthwhile. The second one I picked up was again in Bingham. Apologies to Bingham councillors, but it's the Hammerhead at Moorbridge, Bingham. Excellent. What a good idea. A new access to the Butt Field, and it's linked to car parking proposals for the future. Bingham's growing and it needs these facilities. This is a stepping stone on that road. The third one, more close to home, the Radcliffe-on-Trent Master Plan, and I thank Councillor Jen Walker for her support for it. A few brief facts. This is a village where population growth, like many others, is rising. We need more parking. We need to support our businesses. That's common to many of the key settlements and others. But Radcliffe-on-Trent councillors have spent years, I personally have been on it for about 10 years, drawing, sketching and working with the parish council and many other partners, the county council, highways, etc., on a plan and getting it to a point where a consultant was appointed under the master planning budget to come up with a scheme. You know, we support other key settlements like Ruddington and Eastleigh and Keyworth doing the same. I ask, if those councillors haven't got some detailed plan yet to bring to the table, we are putting money on the table for them to come forward and we can work on it. It's something we really want to do across the piece. So we're ready and others can be helped as well. The new vehicles are reducing emissions and part of the carbon management agenda. Yeah, great. I mean, we need to keep our assets up to date. It's climate change. It's all about hydrogen, electric vehicles and the like. So that's another good project, I feel, in the capital programme. Lastly, Rushcliffe Arena, where we are today. It's a bit of a small thing, really, but it's the low wall in the big arena. It's in there to remove the low wall. It's a trip hazard. Yes, I've tripped on it. I've seen many other people trip on it at various events in there. It's lethal. It needs to go. So I welcome that. It's a small thing, but you know, sometimes in life, the small things are what people get really concerned about. Pleased to see it. Overall, I'm conscious of the time. I like the capital programme. As I said earlier, many councils would be, and no doubt will be, envious of what we can do in difficult financial times, in a difficult economic climate. To have a 24.3 million programme over 5 years, you know, that takes some doing with no debt and to finance it ourselves and a zero or no increase on the council tax. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Upton. Councillor Brennan, you have 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to welcome the budget, and I'm particularly pleased to see that the resources we've been able to allocate to our economic growth priorities. And there's been a lot of mention of master plans, and I'm going to say some more. We published our very first economic growth strategy in 2025, which clearly sets out our ambition to support our local town and village centres to enable them to thrive and remain fit for purpose for the future. This included an action to create vision documents or master plans for our 7 largest areas. We have to date made significant investment in Cockgrove Town Centre, over 7 million, and in Bingham, around 20 million, with work continuing there on a master plan that will include making the railway station more accessible and linking the town centre to leisure facilities already available in the town. Keyworth Parish Council has led extensive work on bringing together a vision for their town centre, which we have offered to support to develop further through our own resources and external expertise. The West Bridgford Master Plan is well advanced, following several years of partnership work on making the town centre more pedestrian friendly and ensuring that the avenue remains an attractive and buoyant area for businesses and leisure into the future. The Radcliffe-on-Trent Master Plan is also well advanced, and it hasn't come out of nowhere, as Councillor Walker suggested. As Councillor Upton said, work to address the challenges of the town centre in Radcliffe began back in 2017 with an economic development plan funded through the then Radcliffe and Bingham Growth Board, then a parking and transport survey, and then a retail review. Radcliffe-on-Trent, like many settlements in the borough, is a growing community. The town centre suffers from a lack of parking, and the layout, a linear main street, has no real town centre or marketplace for community events. It has no central space where the growing community can meet and come together, and this has both a social and economic impact as people choose to go to neighbouring villages and towns, leeching funds from local businesses and the wider community. Radcliffe-on-Trent has not suddenly appeared in the budget. Local members have worked for several years to realise an ambition to resolve these issues and to make better and more productive use of land within the village centre that is currently not well used or usable, bringing together health partners, county highways, private businesses and landowners and the parish council with external support to design a deliverable scheme. These plans, as I say, are well advanced and will be presented with extensive supporting evidence for investment to bring forward the first phase to Cabinet next week for their detailed consideration. It's actually quite disappointing to note that this master planning work has come under criticism in some other major settlements in the borough, with leaflets being distributed, social media campaigns and petitions being launched which suggest that we have somehow favoured some areas over others, that we are being unfair or penalising them. Councillor Walker implies Radcliffe-on-Trent has somehow been prioritised. The economic growth strategy has been published since last year, and in that time, I have not been approached once as the relevant portfolio holder to discuss master plans for these other areas, and neither has the council's economic development team. That said, we have made clear in this budget that resources are available, for example, for Ruddington and Eastleigh, to pull together strategic master plans. And I have recently written out to all ward members and the relevant parish councils, inviting them to begin such a process, supported by external expertise funded by the Borough Council. If that invitation is taken up, then completed master plans can form the basis of investment bids in the future that are ambitious but also viable, deliverable and realistic. I very much hope they will take up this offer, and I am very happy to support where I can. We will also, as Councillor Thomas suggested, review the work of the Growth Board and consider how it can support this process and take a strategic overview of all the master plans that are coming forward across the borough. This is a good, prudent budget and one that enables us to take forward a range of initiatives.
One minute, Councillor Brennan.
Upheaval caused by the local government review, and I'm very happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gordon Wheeler. Thank you. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me again thank the officers. I know it's already been said, but I can't let this moment pass without thanking them. Huge amount of work behind the scenes. Not those who are just sitting to my left, but others will not be chambered tonight as well. I'm sure they'd agree with that immediately. And of course, welcome back, sir. Lovely to see you again. You may not agree with me, but frankly, don't care if you do or you don't. But we are very lucky in this council. We don't stifle debate. Go across the road, that way, across the bridge, where exactly that happens. That happened a couple of days ago, happened yesterday, and it will continue to happen. It doesn't happen here. Councillor Verdi has already been given praise for his willingness to engage and talk to opposition members. That is what we will do, and we will carry on doing that. You may not always like what we come up with, but the opportunity to talk to us is always available to you, and please use it. So I thank Councillor Verdi for a huge amount of work that he's put into this, as well as opening the door to anyone who's to talk to him. I think we've been criticised, or Councillor Clark's been criticised, and I actually agree with what he said, that there's been a very poor settlement from central government. Now, then Councillor Plant said, it's only a cup of coffee. It may be only a cup of coffee to some people, but it's a cup of coffee, 4.50, 4.75, whatever the figure is. This is not an original school of mathematics. This isn't. Every penny matters to our residents. It doesn't matter what the figure is. So please don't scoff at that. It's not right to do so. Across the road, Nottingham City Council. You said it's not political. You can laugh if you like, folks across there. That's entirely up to you. It's been said by one of our former Rushcliffe residents, who is now sadly an MP, to thank the Labour government for increasing funding Nottingham City Council by 154.5 million over 3 years. Wonderful, of course, Nottingham City Council delighted. The feedback she got from residents was, fine votes, there's money tree, and by the way, folks, this is our money, which has been given off to the city council, we're bankrupt anyway. So come on, nothing to be proud of.
Point of clarification. Sorry, I don't think, can you explain how Nottingham City Council is bankrupt? Because it's not bankrupt.
What's bankrupt?
It's not bankrupt.
Not this council.
The correct terminology that a council should be using, if that's okay.
I don't think that's what I've said, Mr. Mayor. Council had huge financial difficulty. It was declared bankrupt. We want to come out of that. It's only be able to come out there because the funding it's got from central government. There's a lot of work for us to do over here. Of course, it's only a start, as Councillor Birdie's already acknowledged, Councillor Clark has, and Councillor Brennan has as well. But all I want to end by asking everyone, if you haven't already thought about how you're going to vote, please get behind and support this. It's the only meaningful paper in front of you this evening. So go for it. Show the whole world out there that we actually care for our residents by supporting this budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, I have Councillor Harry on. Thank you. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I would like to thank our finance team for delivering this budget despite significant challenges, from changes to fair funding to a 60% drop in retained business rates. In difficult times, this budget provides much needed stability. The reform-led County Council has increased council tax by 3.99%, despite promising to freeze or cut it. Labour's Police and Crime Commissioner has increased the policing precept by 5.1%. And the Labour-run City Council has decided to increase council tax by 3.5%. Mr. Mayor, while others reach for tax rises, we have chosen restraint, responsibility, and respect for taxpayers. Rushcliffe continues to have the lowest council tax in Nottinghamshire and among the lowest in the country. That is a real support for residents at a time when many households are still under pressure. And we are able to do this from a position of strength. We remain debt-free, no borrowing is planned, our reserves are strong. That resilience is the result of years of disciplined financial management. But we are not standing still. Over the next 5 years, we will invest 24 million across our borough in leisure centres, community facilities, recycling expansion, climate action, housing support, and town centre master planning. Budgets are not just numbers on paper. They are improvements people can see in their parks, streets, and communities. And we are already seeing the benefit of that investment. In my Compton Acres ward, the eroded watercourse bank has been repaired and stone cabins installed. The whole area is now looking much improved. At Greythorn Park, a new all-weather pitch has been installed. It was fantastic to see pupils from Greythorn Primary School enjoying the new surface. These are real examples of investment being delivered on the ground by a conservative-run council. So we are investing, we are improving services, we are supporting communities, and we are doing it while freezing council tax and remaining debt-free. That is responsible leadership. I'm proud to support this budget, and I urge colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arm. And Councillor Brown, please, 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be a few minutes. First of all, I'd like to welcome Sarah back. It's great to see you back. I'll speak to you after the meeting, if I may. Like many residents that I've spoken to, welcome the freezing of the council tax made possible by good financial management under Conservative control. Even though the government has cut our funding, which is not acceptable and shows contempt that the Labour government has for our area. Freezing the council tax will help offset the increase of 3.99% county council tax by Reform UK, who promised to freeze it. I also welcome the investment of £125,000 to Eastleigh Leisure Centre to update the facility following the PFI agreement. I'm sure that users of the facility will welcome the upgrade and hopefully it will also encourage more residents to use it. Mr Mayor, Eastleigh Village Centre needs refurbishment and again welcome the funds made available for this, and I hope that more funding will be made available in the future. I look forward to any plans that the Parish Council come up with and will work with them to ensure the plan is delivered. Mr Mayor, I will be supporting the budget and I urge all members to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Jonathan Wheeler. Thank you. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So again, thanks to the officers and especially those who support my portfolio. I know there's a lot of work to be done behind the scenes to look at some of the great investment I'll touch on later that's into the budget. I think, again, it has to be said, when there's comments come across in the room about the government funding, it is a fact that our funding has been cut and it's effective blackmail to councils to maximise the council tax when you look at the settlement and how they put it together with the core funding. And I completely agree with the leader's comments that it does seem to be to make it look like LGR is more favourable by making district councils effectively go close to the wall. I know speaking to colleagues in other councils across Nottinghamshire, they don't think they'll be able to survive in a couple of years thanks to the settlements they've got, and that's of all political persuasions. I also do find it quite incredible when we're being told off for freezing council tax, again from the same benches who in previous years have told us they don't believe in council tax, so we can't seem to win either way. Onto my portfolio into leisure. So over £1 million this budget is going into leisure, and our great facilities we've got. So you've got Rushcliffe Country Park benefiting, here Rushcliffe Arena, and many facilities, including Eastleigh Leisure Centre. So all of Rushcliffe is benefiting as a result of this budget, and that investment you're not going to see that level of investment in any other district council across Nottinghamshire, and I would wager not many across the country as well. In terms of the comments made about terminally ill, I think what's really important to say is actually thanks to the residents who raised it, to myself and to colleagues on this side, and I don't know about colleagues on the other side, but there was residents of my county division who is really personal to them because of their husband who is terminally ill. And when this campaign first came about, they get in contact. We were looking to discuss it with officers. I do thank Councillor Thomas as well for raising it. I know other colleagues from other parties have as well, and so really hope that could take a scrutiny and looked at and see how we could look to implement that if it seemed feasible by the scrutiny committee. In terms of West Bridgford Town Council, so really got to go on this. People say it's more democratic. Not a single town council out there had democratic elections at the last elections. So they've got more in common with North Korea than they do with this council, because you've got councils on there who have not gone through election. You've got councils out there like Radcliffe-on-Trent who put 180% precept out there, and it's been done by some councillors who weren't even elected. So how anyone can say that West Bridgford has less democracy than those places, I really don't understand. But the system of West Bridgford come through this council, come through the various committees that we have, and is there for all people to see. So when you look at the precepts on there, West Bridgford residents are paying a third less than Runnington, much less than Radcliffe-on-Trent, and there are some figures out there, including some hastily put together surveys that will go in the bin because they've actually got no proper data on there. But I'm trying to compare West Bridgford to places like Althorpe in terms of the areas they are and the council that they have.
The only other town council in this borough, Bingham Town Council, did hold an election in May 2023. Thank you.
Guys, apart from Bingham, was the other councils that I was believing. Apart from Bingham, I thought that was I had that down on my list. Council, I do apologise for that one, but I will say the other town council on there. So,
Point of order. Don't think Bingham Town Council in May 2023 held an election.
I'll draw that apology then. There you go. My swear right for a change. Thank you, Councillor Winnings, for that one. Yeah, it's kind of guess on me later. Thank you for that one. So. There you go. No points of clarification. Right, I'll keep going. Don't worry. So, in terms of the when we say about West Bridgford as well, and there's comments made by Councillor Thomas about West Bridgford residents should pay more back to the council. We don't put toll bridges outside West Bridgford. When we have the events in Bridgford Park, when we have our fantastic new facilities paid for by West Bridgford residents in terms of the play areas, we don't go on there and put a counter and we check the postcode, check your passport. It's there for everyone to use. And it's well known that West Bridgford has people from lots of areas. I still remember my first prompts in the park when I went around talking to residents. First 20 went in West Bridgford, didn't throw them out, didn't charge them more. I better not say that too much. Dorinda might make me do that next year to make some more money. But it just shows that it's there for everyone. So as part of the capital there, I really think it's disingenuous to say West Bridgford residents don't pay their fair share for that. In terms of the investment in town centre as well, I want to back up some comments made by Councillor Brennan. So I met with representatives of one of the areas that's been mentioned that there hasn't had the level of investment 2 years ago as representing the cabinet, and I made the offer there and then on behalf of Councillor Brennan that she asked me to do in terms of women to work on a master plan investment tax town centre. Never got a single response from that parish council who was there, and that was even though I have to chase up a couple of times. So again, we have made those offers before, they've been made again. So rather than the amount of effort gone into complaining about it, some of those town councils,
1 minute, Councillor Wheeler.
Had put in that effort to get to that place, just because in Rathbone-on-Trent that they have actually done that work and that effort rather than complain about it. You see that too many times the parish town councils out there who complain they don't get the support, and yet when you actually say the support's there, don't do it. So I really hope that those town councils out there and parish councils do get on and put in those plans. We're more than willing to support them, but they have got a preset for a reason. They have got officers there paid for by taxpayers for a reason, so you get on and do the job and not expect us to do it for them. So I really commend this budget to the council, Mr. Mayor, and really hope everyone can vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. No one else has signalled to speak, so I'm now moving on to Councillor Chewings. Would you like to speak? And it's for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, let me thank the officers for the effort and time they put into the budget and the alternative budget. It is greatly appreciated. Just want to turn first of all to the comment made by Councillor Clark around deprivation and the Labour Party funding formula. Not too happy with this government, and there's a lot of things they get wrong. However, one thing I won't do is criticise prioritising deprivation. So I join the comments made by Councillor Plant. We shouldn't be disappointed about prioritising those in deprivation. Something we should not be. It's humanity. Just want to some other comments really. 161 pages for the budget. With that, there's been quite a lot of talk about Rathbone-on-Trent and the £1 million. Don't know why. I welcome investment, so I've got no issue with investment in Rathbone-on-Trent. But it was a surprise. I think that's quite clear. The £1 million announced was a surprise. It happened not so long after the furore of 180% increase in the precept of Rathbone-on-Trent Parish Council was announced. And it's not been agreed yet, to be agreed later on, hopefully. But that came at that point. That's when it was announced. The plan is to discuss it next week at Cabinet. It's been a lot of talk. And I heard there's been a lot of work going on in the background. Well, we've got 3 Cabinet members that actually sit in Rathbone-on-Trent. Coincidence, I'm sure. Let's move forward. Sorry. Our amendments. It is, as Councillor Bird says, cutting the fat. It's cutting the fat from what we get. And here, Councillor Eddie Bean's comments about bar humbug budget. But is it a bar humbug budget when we're looking to cut £6,500 per annum from a catering? £4,000 of that money per annum is for us in this chamber at the AGM, Prosecco, buffet, mince pies at Christmas, canapes. We've made cuts over the years, yeah? All in the guise of the transformation efficiency plan. We've made cuts to the services that we provide. We have increased costs on our residents, yeah? But we're still happy to have the niceties. That's absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. Councillor Clark's got an issue about priority and deprivation. Has he got an issue with us cutting back on ourselves? The choice here, isn't there? I'm not going to take up too much time on this. You've got a choice tonight. Vote down the main budget. Vote the alternative budget through. You get absolutely everything you've got, but you make savings from cutting the fat from our niceties. One last thing with regards to the Rushcliffe reports. I just want to point out that obviously there's a proposal there to save £12,000, which would cut it from 2 editions to 1 edition a year. I welcome that. I mean, I looked at the spring edition 2025 and half it's a propaganda piece. Councillor Clark and the Leeds reports, we're pleased again to have the lowest council tax in Nottinghamshire for the forthcoming financial year. This is also the lowest 25% of councils nationally for the Rushcliffe of the bills. Goes on to the next title, debt-free, lowest council tax in Notts. Should we be spending money on propaganda? I don't think we should. So let's cut it down to 1 publication. I ask you to vote down the budget. move forward with this alternative budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chewings. Councillor Birch, would you like to reply? That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it was a fabulous speech from my colleague there. I couldn't have said it better myself. I do love a Dickensian reference, so thank you, Councillor Reddy for that. But what you've called our humbug budget is exactly that. We're cutting the fats and non-essentials. We're saying, in a cost of living crisis, let's do away with our perks. Let's just get rid of it, and let's make some sensible savings where we can and pass that directly on to the residents. It basically comes down to, if we believe that savings should always remain with the council rather than benefiting residents, then council tax will only ever go in one direction. We should pass on efficiencies directly to the residents. And I'll just make a quick point about cost of a cup of coffee cliche that's been going around. It doesn't work. It's got to work both ways. If you're saying, yeah, we're going to raise council tax by whatever it is, £3 something, it's cost of a cup of coffee, and then criticise us for wanting to cut it, you know, it only works. It should work in both ways. So I'm just going to close, and I've made the same speech more or less for the last 2 years. And I thought this year I'd do something a little bit different. And I thought I'd draw on the wisdom of the ancients. And no, I'm not talking about the Conservative cabinets, obviously excluding you, Councillor Brennan, obviously. Whoa. So I thought I'd read this fable. This is from Aesop, the noted fabulist. And I think it says it better than I ever could. This is called The Ass Carrying the Image. An ass once carried through the streets of a city a famous wooden image to be placed in one of its temples. As he passed along, the crowd made lowly prostration before the image. The ass, thinking that they bowed their heads in token of respect for himself, bristled up with pride, gave himself airs and refused to move another step. The driver, seeing him thus stop, laid his whip lustily about his shoulders and said, "Oh, you perverse dullhead, it is not yet come to this, that men pay worship to an ass." And the moral of that fable is, it's not wise to take credit for achievements that are not your own. This council, as I've already said, is absolutely blessed. We have the highest council tax base in the whole of Nottinghamshire. We have the lowest overheads. By comparison, we have £16 million overheads. Newark and Sherwood have 23 million. Our per household council tax is £2,000 per year, roughly. Mansfield is £1,400 per year. They are not your achievements. They are the result of the potluck of where the boundary of Rushcliffe was born and the demographics within that boundary. And again, I call upon you to have some humility and to have some context here. Yes, I say this every year, but it doesn't seem to be getting through. We are blessed here. We have 40% of the higher band council taxpayers. That's an empirical fact. I know you don't like it, and I totally agree with regards to Rushcliffe reports. It does mirror your political messaging, and I'll be writing an email to council about that in the coming weeks. It is a propaganda piece. We had Councillor Clark smiling on the front cover with next to a glass collection bin, something that he voted against when we brought a motion on it. Your side said, quote, "It's a retrograde step." A certain councillor said that there'll be glass bottle fights in the street. It's madness. So cutting Rushcliffe reports, I think, is going to save money for residents. I don't think residents should pay for our catering, for our mince pies, for our Prosecco. They shouldn't pay for non-essential spending. And by the way, we're not saying cut the HR catering budget entirely. It's still there. They've still got a pot of £2,500. We're saying reduce it. And I think that's fair. The taxpayers should not be paying for that. And your decision tonight is to say, do you think that it is justifiable that council taxpayers pay for our catering, pay for social summer events and new starter breakfast for staff when the private sector and hardworking residents don't get
Councillor Birch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have an opportunity tonight to vote for a tax cut. The ball's in your court. You could do it. You've got your exact budget. We've left it where it is. All we've done is suggest some additional savings. What we're saying is, let's cut Rushcliffe residents' tax, and will the Conservative Party actually be conservative? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. Councillor Way, would you like to speak? For 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought I'd been forgotten.
West Bridgford is looking to develop its own town council, and leaving it to inherited debt is irresponsible. And it's only reasonable for them to have to balance their books in the same way that other town parish councils have to, and not be paying less than other councils while having their infrastructure and community events supported by the rest of Rushcliffe. It's commonly held belief in our communities that everything goes to West Bridgford, while for many it's not a destination, particularly as it's not easily accessible by public transport for a lot of us, and parking is difficult and expensive. Our residents prefer to support their own community events, which don't attract the same level of RBC funding. There's been a long-term unfairness in the way funding and support is distributed through the key settlements in Rushcliffe. And we are now in the position of the 3 of those settlements trying to play catch up, desperately trying to stop using the phrase levelling up. In this budget, Redcliffe-on-Trent is to be given £1 million, the purpose of which is not explained here. It has been mentioned that this came as a surprise, and I think to an awful lot of us, it has come as a surprise. West Bridgford is to get £500,000, despite being in debt to Rushcliffe already, and Eastleigh has been offered £50,000, and that only after a great deal of lobbying from League board members. Our alternative budget asks for the same to be offered to Ruddington and Keyworth and make a start on evening out support for these communities. We know from online traffic that hundreds of local people have raised concerns. Eastleigh Parish Council, along with the ward members, were working on plans for the village centre until they were suspended by COVID. Nobody's fault, I appreciate. But following that, the disbanding of the growth boards left them in limbo. So this has been on the Eastleigh agenda for nearly 10 years, as Councillor Opton has said about the Ratcliffe-on-Trent one. So I'm happy to hear Councillor Brennan say that the growth boards will come back and her offer for help. We didn't realise it was available, otherwise we would have asked earlier. Page 32 of the reports pack and the commentary of the responsible financial officer states, inevitably, less council tax income makes the budget less affordable, sustainable and prudent. By increasing the council tax for the coming year, Rushcliffe finances will show a surplus rather than a deficit at the end of 27-28. And who knows, maybe there'll be an opportunity to provide more support for those who need it, as highlighted by other speakers this evening, and even up the funding going to various key settlements. It's incumbent on this council, the final council to represent Rushcliffe after 50 years, to leave RBC on a sound financial footing and to preserve its hard-earned and well-deserved reputation for fiscal management. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Way. Councillor Thomas, would you like to reply? And you have 5 minutes as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think most of what I've wanted to say, I've said already. I've just got a few points to make in response to what's been said. Councillor Eddivine and Councillor Wheeler, talking about the West Bridgford special expenses, Councillor Eddivine said it didn't ring true what we were saying. Well, it's a simple matter of maths, actually. West Bridgford has not been able to pay its bills, and Rushcliffe has lent West Bridgford the money. Now, I'm not even saying that we shouldn't support West Bridgford. What we're saying is that it should have sorted itself out by the time the councils are disbanded, rather than not sorted out by then. That's all that we're saying, and it's hardly anything really in terms of the amount of money. But it's slightly more than Councillor Birch's 32p that he's saving with his what I would regard as penny pinching savings on the whole. The Rushcliffe reports is probably the only contact that some of our residents have from Rushcliffe. People who aren't online, and even some of the people who are online don't get anything online from Rushcliffe. And I think Rushcliffe reports is quite important still at this stage, especially when we're going into reorganisation. I do agree with him about mince pies and Prosecco for us. I'm very pleased that Councillor Birch will now be on the Civic Hospitality panel, so he'll be able to make his views known there, which is great news. I just wanted to say something about this no external borrowing that we keep hearing about from the other side of the room. And that is simply because of the new homes bonus that has been earned by Rushcliffe because we have produced so much housing. So we've been borrowing the money from ourselves, from the new homes piggy bank, which we haven't actually been spending up until now. What we have in we've been spending some of it, but basically there's a bit of a rush. There appears to be a bit of a rush really to get the rest of it spent before local government reorganisation. It does kind of rather smack of wanting to empty the piggy bank before we have to share it with anyone else. But there we go on that one. And Councillor Upton told us about resurfacing the car parks in Bingham, yes, which is obviously very worthwhile. But I think most residents would probably be happier if we manage to deal with some of the potholes. I know it's not our responsibility, but in the fullness of time, we will all be in a unitary council where the money that comes in can be perhaps used for that. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Verdi, would you like to speak? You have 7.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and this has been a wide-ranging and constructive debate. And thank to all the members for the contributions, and also the officers. I think Pete, Sarah, Katie Brandon, who's sitting at the back, and Rob Cotty also have been very instrumental in allowing us to be here today to discuss all this. The leader's already made a number of points in terms of the budget, so I'm not going to repeat those. What I will say is some bold highlights that I have. Strong financial management of this council has been delivered for years. It's balanced, it's responsible. Yes, we are debt free, and I'm not ashamed of that, and I'll come back to that. It's careful stewardship of our money, and importantly, we're doing this with strong reserves, robust governance, and a clear financial strategy. It's a hallmark of a well-run council, fortunately, I would say, but others think unfortunately. Mr. Mayor, turning to the alternative budgets, West Bridgford expense, the current repayment profile has already been considered by the West Bridgford Group and by their members, who are actually responsible for determining that budget, as they represent their local communities, as all parish councillors and other ward members here do. They've agreed an approach. There is a proposal to pay it over the next 3 years. So that is quite clear in the papers. And it's perhaps worth noting that whilst the ward member for Eastleigh is proposing an increase in taxation for West Bridgford, Eastleigh Parish Council have actually reduced theirs down to £88.48. The second proposal to increase council tax to the maximum, we've heard all the arguments already. It's not a political stunt. The reason we can do that, it's manageable, it's responsible, and we can do that because we have a commercial ethos, we've managed our finances, we are debt free, and we've been able to absorb that to help our residents. So I'm not ashamed of saying that. I do want to pick up on a point, though, which is suggesting that we're presenting the future authority post LGR with projected deficit somehow. What matters is the overall financial position we hand forward, and Rushcliffe will transfer to that authority significant reserves and a debt-free balance sheet. I'll say it again, a debt-free balance sheet. That, Mr. Mayor, represents a position of real financial strength, not putting them into trouble. Going back to the third proposal, Councillor Birch, reducing council tax further. Whilst this may appear attractive on the surface, the reality is that it's a small reduction permanently, which will reduce the council's tax base and worsen the financial position. The suggested funding through small operational savings may sound.
Thank you. I think I may have misunderstood. Worsening the council's financial position, the deficit is reduced more than yours. They're recurring savings year on year, and therefore it's not in a worse position, it's in a better position. So that's a have I misunderstood you? Because you seem to have got that wrong.
Councillor Birch, sorry, that isn't a point of order. A point of order is a breach of law or a breach of standing orders.
More importantly, Mr. Mayor, if genuine efficiencies are being identified within the organisation, the responsible course of action is to apply those savings to strengthen the council's financial position by reducing the projected deficit. And if we look at the specific savings proposed, it's already been mentioned by Councillor Thomas, Rushcliffe reports. We should remember that this publication provides important information to residents, including updates on policing priorities, public health information, council services, and how we invest in public money. So it is very worthwhile. As a council, we should be communicating with residents, not reducing our ability to do so. And I think going beyond a freeze would, in my view, be a step too far. I think Councillor Birch used the phrase cutting the fat. I think that's very insulting to officers. Officers spend every day going through budgets and forecasts and reducing our costs, and the transformation efficiency program, which I think has been negated here for some reason, has delivered 6.6 million savings due to go up to 8.747 million. So that should not be underestimated and ignored. In fact, I might rename it from the transformation and efficiency program to the Slim Fast program, because that's what we've done. So I think we should be grateful for that. Your point about we have high council tax. I've been through this many times over the previous years. Just to share with you, the business rates and the revenue support grant figures table from 7 district councils, Rushcliffe is at the bottom, 4.8 million versus Ashfield 10.7 million at the top. So if we think we get lots of council tax, well, actually we lose it all because of the unfair funding that we receive. Couple of other points. Councillor Walker, thank you for lots of proposals in your speech. However, I note there was no alternative budget. However, I will answer a couple of points. The power plant that is going to secure scrutiny as part of the climate change programme. Other points you raised have already been covered. Councillor Edavine, thank you for reassuring us that a bar humbug budget is not the right way forward, and I appreciate that. We are making lots of investment here and we are cutting costs as well. Councillor Plant, I think I've covered your point with regards to how upset you were with Councillor Clark's comments. The fact remains, and this is a fact, we are commercially very savvy, if I can use that word. And the reality is it is an unfair funding agreement. I've just demonstrated that with those figures with regards to the business rate support and the revenue support grant. We're at the bottom of the table, so it's a fact. We shouldn't ignore that. Councillor Solomon, thank you for actually agreeing that this is a healthy position. We're here because of our diligence, our financial management, our prudent approach to decision making, and we're here able to absorb the council tax freeze, which is what it is, because of all of those areas that I just mentioned. So it's not by pot luck. And I think last year I was told it was a royal flush. It's not a royal flush. It's the way we've been playing our hand, and I'm happy to repeat that. Ultimately, Mr. Mayor, the debate comes down to a choice. It's a choice between carefully constructed, responsible budget, which is built on sound financial management and is designed to support residents while maintaining our long-term financial viability and stability, or amendments, as we've heard, which either increase taxation unnecessarily or weaken the council's financial resilience at a time when stability is more important than ever. I think, because in the end, budgets are judged by how they perform over the next 5 years. In other words, our MTFS, not how they sound tonight with sound bites of alternate suggestions. This administration believes the responsible course is clear. This budget protects residents, sustains investment in the borough, and ensures that Rushcliffe remains a well-run financial authority as we approach local government reorganisation in particular. So, Mr. Mayor, this budget represents a balanced, responsible and sustainable plan for the year ahead, and I therefore urge members to support this. I thank all members for their contributions, but as I've demonstrated, I think I've been able to sort of demonstrate that actually the reality is very different to what's being proposed. We're well run, we're stable, we're secure, we're delivering services, we're not cutting services, and we're freezing council tax because of all of those things. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Verdi. Councillor Clark, would you like to speak as a right of reply before the matter is put to the vote? 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, please. Just to respond to some of the comments, but I would like to thank everybody for a very calm and reasoned debate, which I think is very welcome, especially for anybody watching in from outside. Just running through just a few things. Councillor Thomas talked about the New Horizons bonus, and she did identify that, or correctly identify that we don't have it anymore. But the New Horizons bonus was a payment, a reward, which was put in place by central government for extra development and housing that's taken place. So that was needed in order to be able to continue providing extra services for our residents. She talked about equal sums for the different large settlements. There could be equal sums, but the point is that Ratcliffe-on-Trent actually put forward a proposal. I do take exception to the insinuation by somebody else. It was Councillor Chewings, wasn't it? Yes, that the three ward members for Ratcliffe-on-Trent are cabinet members. That's completely irrelevant because the three ward members for Ratcliffe-on-Trent actually drew up a proposal and put forward a proposal. So if all other large settlements do the same, then again, those proposals will be considered.
Point of clarification.
I'm afraid that Councillor Thomas' protestations, if you like.
I'm just going to point to clarification. Well, we've been told this by points of explanation. Whatever. Personal explanation. That's what's been.
Personal explanation relates to
as to what? Yes.
Sorry. A personal explanation relates to something that you have said that has been misunderstood.
Okay.
You haven't spoken yet you haven't spoken in this debate.
Okay, well that's different to what we were told before. So a point of order then, I don't know. I would like to understand how we were meant to have made these bids that we've not been told about.
Such that can be clarified outside of this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
It's not a point of order, Mr. Mayor, but actually, if Councillor Gaunt just waits a second, I was actually going to come to that. But first of all, Councillor Thomas talked about, having equal sums. Well, draw up a proposal, put a proposal forward, and I can assure you we'll be happy to look at it. And Councillor Brennan has written to all the large settlements to ask about the economic strategy, and it is in the economic growth strategy. And there is a priority action for us to provide support for all the large settlements. So therefore, there is something there for people to ask about. No fixed. Councillor Edovine, I agree with his comments about the soft spend helps organisations, because it's absolutely important that we encourage staff morale wherever possible, and we always want to make sure we're encouraging and thanking staff for good work that has been undertaken. So I would be really disappointed if we didn't have the ability to thank staff and encourage their morale. I agree with Councillor Mallender actually about having concern that we won't be here in a few years to debate this, and that is lamentable. Sorry that I annoyed Councillor Plant, but she did say, and I've had many colleagues asked the same questions. He talked about us being 538 out of 450. Not quite sure how that works. I thanked Councillor Solomon for her support. Just to mention the extra bins, the charges for extra bins, well, there's extra weight carried on the lorries as a result of that. So obviously that needs to be taken account of. I think really, given the fact that the time is short, I will just finish by saying it's no electoral or political stunt because it works both ways. If you are saying it is a political or electoral stunt, the City Council have been increasing their council tax, and this year, this year's proposal is the lowest increase that they've proposed for 18 years. So therefore, you know, I wonder what that is. So I really hope that everybody will actually support this budget, Mr. Mayor, and I hope everybody will vote in favour. Thank you.
Just make my point of order. I think Councillor Clark was talking about the City Council's budget, and this actual debate is about our budget.
Yes, and also I'd like to make my point of order, which is the member's gone over the allotted time. Thank you.
I'll now hand over to the monitoring officer who will take the votes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To be clear from all councillors, so we are voting by recorded vote. So I'll call each councillor's name in turn, and if you can please reply if you are for, against or abstain. And we are voting on the proposal that's been put forward by the Cabinet. The recommendations are set out at pages 21 and 22 of your papers. So Councillor Barney, first of all.
For.
Councillor Birch.
We should have a tax cut. Against.
Councillor Brennan. For. Councillor Brown. Councillor Butler. Councillor Calvert.
Against.
Councillor Chaplin.
Against.
Councillor Chewins.
Against.
Councillor Clark.
Oh.
Councillor Cumberlack.
For.
Councillor Cotty.
For.
Councillor Della. Councillor Eddyveen.
For.
Councillor Ellis.
For.
Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Gaunt.
Against.
Councillor Giorgio. For. Councillor Grocock. Councillor Inglis.
For.
Councillor Richard Mallender. Councillor Sue Mallender.
Against.
Councillor Mason.
For.
Councillor Om.
For.
Councillor Perek.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
Against.
Councillor Plant. Councillor Polenta.
Against.
Councillor Regan.
For.
Councillor Sims.
For.
Councillor Solomon.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
Against.
Councillor Upton.
For.
Councillor Verdi.
For.
Councillor Jan Walker. Councillor Rex Walker. Councillor Way.
Against.
Councillor Wells.
For.
Councillor Gordon Wheeler.
For.
Councillor Jonathan Wheeler.
For.
And Councillor Williams.
For. I declare the vote carried, 24 for and 16 against. Right. Item 10, council tax resolution for 2026 to 27. Councillor Clark, will you move the report? 10 minutes you have. We're going to have a break after this one. You have 10 minutes, Councillor Clark.
I can assure you I won't need 10 minutes, Mr. Mayor. So this item 10, we always say this is a technical report because they've debated the budget, and this item is a result of that decision on the budget, and the report is laid out in a particular way to comply with legislation. It brings together the previously agreed Borough Council tax and special expense budget requirements that I've just mentioned, and the resulting tax levels with those of the parish and town councils, police, fire and Nottinghamshire County Council. So Appendix A does refer to the resolution, and I would note that in freezing the council tax here, that's different to the county council, which is increasing council tax, and is the city council as well. So I therefore move the recommendations on page 183, which is for the council to approve the council tax resolution for 2026-27. Thank you.
Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to second this report.
Thank you. I have Councillor Jim Walker. Would
Yeah.
you like to speak?
Yeah, no, I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edavine, would you like to speak? 5 minutes.
It won't be 5 minutes, but just as a matter of interest, is the precept in Ratcliffe-on-Trent the highest in the country? I believe it's just been increased by something like 190%. I know we can't do anything about it, but it is very high.
Councillor Edavine exaggerates. It's only 182%.
Councillor Thomas, would you like to speak?
Yes, I don't really want to prolong matters, but I was going to ask whether there's a typo on page 190, which shows one of the council's parish precept at £319. I was wondering if that was correct. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Mallender, would you like to speak? Okay, thank you. Councillor Birch. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this item? No. Councillor Verdi, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, you have the right to reply to the debate.
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We will now take a vote on the recommendation at page 183 on your papers. And all in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? 2. I declare the vote is carried, and we will now take a break for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Councillors, if I could ask you to take your seats, please, we'd like to get back underway. Thank you.
Thank you, please. Can we move forward, please? Yeah, yeah, that's all right. I did say it. Yeah.
Solomon's left.
Thank you. Item 11, update on political composition of the council and the committee membership. Councillor Clark, will you move the report?
Okay.
Yeah.
You? Oh, sorry. Ah, you okay. Good stuff.
5 minutes, please.
Shan't need 5 minutes, Mr. Mayor, anything like. So this refers to the agenda supplement, which has been issued, which relates to the update on political composition of the council and committee membership. As everybody knows, there's been a few changes of one sort and another with the composition, which has resulted in the need to have some changes. This report is basically factual, really. There's not a lot to debate on it because it is what it is. The composition of the council is what it is, and therefore the number of allocation of committee seats are what they are, and this is a result of that. So the facts are there. So I'm happy to move the recommendations on page 1, A, B, and C. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Do we have a seconder for the report? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the report and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan. We have Councillor Julie Chaplin. Would you like to speak? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
5 minutes.
Won't take that one.
Thank you.
So these changes are consistent with the Constitution. However, I just want to take the opportunity to raise again the makeup of the West Bridgford Special Expenses and Still Group. Seems to be getting a lot of talk tonight. We continue to believe that this group should be based on proportionality of West Bridgford and Ed Walton councillors, not the council as a whole. And that would mean 4 Conservatives, 3 Labour, 1 Green, and 1 of either Lib Dem or the Independent People First. Maybe they could share that place. I appreciate that the constitution would need to be changed for this to happen. So we're not going to vote against it. We're going to abstain and make the request to have a review of the constitution in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Reid Devine, do you no? Councillor Thomas, no. Councillor Mallender, Councillor Birch. Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on this item? No. Councillor Brennan, would you like to speak?
No, I've nothing more to add then. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, you have a right to reply to the debate.
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Great. We will now vote on the recommendation at page 1 of the supplementary papers. Okay. All in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Declare the vote carried. Item 12. Item 12 is Barton in Fabis Community Governance Review. Councillor Brennan, will you move the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
10 minutes you have.
Hopefully, the paper before council tonight is self-explanatory. With the growth of a significant new community in Fareham, currently within the parish of Barton in Fabis, a petition was brought forward by the community of Barton in Fabis to trigger a community governance review to ensure that local governance arrangements better reflect the new reality of these communities, their scale and their location. The Task and Finish group set up by the council has undertaken that review. Its findings are contained in the paper. Council must now decide if there's sufficient evidence to support the recommendation of the group to create a separate parish for the new Fareham development. The Governance Review Task and Finish group met for the first time on the 5th of June 2025, where we received a petition from Councillor Alan Kerr, who is in the room. Thank you. Chairman of Barton in Fabis Parish Council. Following that meeting, an initial consultation period began. The details of that process are set out in paragraph 4.5 of the paper. The group met again in October 25 and considered the results of that consultation, in which a majority of respondents had confirmed their wish to establish a new parish for Fareham, as well as additional material put forward by officers, such as alternatives to the boundaries defined in the petition map, and agreed to go forward with a second period of consultation. Again, the details of this are set out fully in the paper. The third meeting of the group took place in January 26 to consider the responses, and we had a number of discussions at the Task and Finish group in terms of the boundaries, the historical importance of some of the affected areas, such as Barton Moor, the name of any new council, and the number of councillors appropriate for the size of the affected communities. I would like to thank my fellow members of the Task and Finish group and the support and hard work of officers, which enabled a positive and thorough approach to this work. As a consequence, the Task and Finish group is now recommending to full council that a separate parish for Fareham, named Fareham Parish Council and comprised of 9 parish councillors in line with the boundaries outlined on the map in Appendix 3 of the papers, be established. Should the council accept this recommendation, then a reorganisation order will be sent to the Secretary of State with a view to the first elections to the new Fareham Parish Council being held in May 2027. I would therefore like to move the recommendation set out at paragraph 2 in the paper. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan. Do you have a seconder?
She does. Happy to second the recommendation. I'd like to reserve my right to speak, please.
Thank you. Councillor Plant, would you like to speak at all? Yep. Everything is 5 minutes. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm going to read this very slowly because I don't want to drop another clanger tonight. So, I was a member of the Task and Finish group that was set up to conduct the Barton and Fabers Community Governance Review. And I found it very interesting to learn about the legislation and the process surrounding a community review. A review that at some point the Labour group and other colleagues in the council would like to see take place for West Bridgford. A community governance review is undoubtedly a time-consuming and complex process, made much easier in this case by the very small number of residents living in Barton and Fabers needed to trigger the review and the limited number of residents actually living in the new Fareham development, who obviously consulted and responded to the consultation. There is no doubt that the village of Barton and Fabers, a small rural village of 228 electors, and the Fareham development, which on completion will have ultimately over 5,000 electors, will be two very different communities with very different needs and priorities, which will definitely be best served by two separate parish councils. The Labour group supports the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edavine, do you wish to say anything? Thank you. Councillor Thomas. Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I support the recommendation. And I too was a member of the working party, and it was a very constructive process. And also I'd like to thank Barton and Fabers community for bringing forward the review. The one thing I would suggest really is that in order for the Fareham Parish Council to get off the ground, I think it is going to take some support from perhaps Rushcliffe and certainly the ward members. So that would be my only comment really. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mallender. It's 5 minutes as well, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't need 5 minutes. I just want to make a very quick comment. Yeah, I'm very pleased to see that sense has been moved in this, and the two very different communities will have their own parish councils representing those people. But I do completely agree with Councillor Plant in that what we do also need is some democracy in West Bridgford. I do hope that these new parish councils that are being formed will not be like the North Korea that apparently some of the others are, but will of course be a better democracy for us all, so that we all have some local representation, especially with local government changes, which may mean that, as my colleague Councillor Richard Mallender had said, that democracy is going to be much reduced in the future with the new council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Birch. Councillor Chewins. It's 5 minutes again.
Yeah, I won't need 5 minutes, but thank you, Mr. Mayor. We fully support this report. I think it's great. You've got two different entities from was it traditional Barton and Fabers, and obviously now the new Fareham development, so it is much needed. I want to commend the residents of Barton and Fabers in bringing the petition. There's a clear protocol to do this, which is a petition from the residents. I support other areas doing, including West Bridgford, and there is a mechanism to do so. Let's get a petition in. Simple as. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to speak on this item? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I as the other borough councillor for Barton and Fabers, fully support this. I've also been on the Task and Finishing group. Although the village of Barton and Fabers and the new development is only a mile apart, but literally worlds apart from what's being built at the moment, from an ancient historic village to a mini metropolis, if you like. couple of months ago, I sat on the presumption meeting for choosing the new academy on site there, and the head of the new academy is going to be working with the community. So I'm sure that one of his first jobs when he gets on site will be to work with the new parish council and help them move forward as well. We fully support it, and I hope everybody's going to support it tonight. And I look forward to working with the new parish council on May next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I've got Councillor Barney.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I just
5 minutes. Thank you.
5 minutes. I just rise to acknowledge the period of time that I was county councillor and attended Barton Pavers Parish Council to honour great parish councillors that we see in the likes of Councillor Kerr, who's been very patient this evening, but also Barton Pavers as a whole have been incredibly patient through this whole process. Such a different community, the thriving, expanding metropolis of Barton set against the tiny Fareham as it was, no houses at all, now quite a few back in the day, but the care and the grace that Barton showed just in their stewardship, actually of thinking what would be best for the future of Fareham, was paramount through my time as county council. And I know that continues, and I know that they will be very good neighbours and bedfellows. I thoroughly support this, and also thank those who are on the task committee to come up with this proposal. So you have my full support, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Barney. Councillor Rex Walker, would you like to speak, as you have reserved his right to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
5 minutes. Thank you.
Pleased that there's broad support for clearly eminently sensible proposal. I'll simply just two quick things. Echo the support and thanks for the absolutely outstanding parish council that operate there, who've driven this process. And secondly, unequivocally, completely agree with every word that Councillor Chewing's just said. Okay, not often that happens, so I will, but it is a useful example what's happened here to others who frequently tell us how much a new town council in other areas would be benefit, but never quite managed to progress the very process that would actually bring that about. Tonight's proposal shows that local democracy works when communities take the initiative and use the powers that already exist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walker. Councillor Brennan, you have the right to reply to the debate. 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to say thank you for all of those that have shown support during the Task and Finish group work and in the chamber tonight, and I hope that we can vote in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan. We will now vote on the recommendation at page 193 on your papers. All in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Declare the vote is carried. Yeah. Item 13, to receive notices of motion. Councillor Birch, would you like to move your motion?
Mr. Mayor, before I do, I would just need the meeting's consent for some amendments that we put through previously.
Yes. Councillor Birch, can you explain the?
Well, as read on the screen there, just some slight tweaks to the language just to make it legal, I guess. And a slight tweak to the council owned and operated. So I just want to clarify it was all council affiliated premises that we're referring to. That's sufficient. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All those in favour of altering the motion as outlined? Against?
Favour first, voted in favour.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So sorry, can we ask all those in favour for amending the motion?
Yes, all those in favour? Now it's against. Okay. Do you want that? Okay. Councillor Birch will speak to his motion and has 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I brought this motion tonight for two reasons, really. We've got the element that refers to Rushcliffe itself and our residents, and then there's a wider ideological debate. So I'll take each in turn. They're both linked, but I'll take them in turn. So cash is vital for a liberal democracy, physical cash. And this may seem like a very cerebral argument, but it's actually very important, and it does go to the heart of our democracy. Having cash is not only inclusive, we know as a matter of fact that certain communities and groups disproportionately use cash more than others, particularly the elderly, age concern. I've done lots of studies on this. The Treasury Committee have also done a lot of research on this. We know that 37% of people over 75 use cash for daily transactions, which is double the national average, and 10% of all transactions are still using cash. We also know from a practical standpoint that we need to mitigate against systems failures. I'm talking if a card machine goes down, or internet's gone, or signal's gone, or bank apps won't load. Having the option of taking physical cash for payments is very good to have in the bank, no pun intended. So having cash as a fallback will keep services running even when the tech doesn't work. And there's also an issue of fairness and confidence. As I've said, the elderly and marginalised groups disproportionately use cash. Heavy cash use is actually more common among low-income people. And as I say, we need that provision. So on that alone, I do hope you can vote for this, just on the practical elements for our residents. The report asked within 3 months for basically it's good housekeeping what we're asking for. It will give us a clear picture of where we can accept cash now, where we do accept cash now, where it's been removed, and where it can sensibly be brought back in. So in terms of the wider ideological picture, cash is vital in a liberal democracy. If we lose cash, it gives inordinate power to faceless corporations and the state. This is not a conspiracy. Western countries are drifting to digital-only currency by human nature. Digital transactions are more convenient. We do a lot of shopping online, and of course, it would be absurd to pay by cash online. There's lots of convenience, and there are reasons why people are migrating to digital-only or primarily digital-only payment methods. And what this motion is saying is we need to be cognizant of that. We need to recognise that we have to keep cash alive in any way we can, because once it's gone, it's not coming back. It is important. And it's important for the following reasons. Number one, privacy. And privacy is a baseline condition of freedom. Every transaction we make digitally leaves a footprint. It leaves time, amount, where things were spent. You have no privacy. And as I say, privacy is vital in a free society. And this may be, you may accuse me of over-exaggeration and hyperbole here, but I don't think the state and state apparatus should be able to look into people on how they spend their money. If you want to go and have a particular hobby, or you want to buy a holy book from a particular religion, the government has no right to know that. You can choose to use digital currency if you like, but we always need the option for cash. As I've already said, it is a physical fallback. It gives the country resilience if there is a cyber attack or tech failure. We know we've got adversaries out there. So from a practical point and a sort of defence standpoint, it's pretty important. Digital currency as well, if we lose cash, it will give inordinate power to faceless corporations and the state. It also reduces the spending power of people in the sense that each transaction has a fee. So for example, just to give an example, transaction trail, a customer pays a plumber for a job. A plumber pays a supplier. his supplier pays the wholesaler pays the manufacturer, and so on and so on. With 2% payment fees, after just 10 transactions, only 82% of the original value was left after compounding 2%, 2%, 2%, 2%. That does not happen with physical cash. It's also a vital budgeting tech for people. So ironically, it is a technology, currency. It is technically a technology. People like to choose to pay with cash because they can physically see it. It's tangible, and they can physically see week on week, month on month, their budget going down. It does help people budget. It's inclusive, as I've already said. And also, I would say the ability to use cash is helpful, particularly for tradespeople and small businesses whose margins generally tend to be lower because they don't have the transaction fees of the same type and severity. So I do think this is a two-parted issue. I think we've got the practical element, which I think is strong enough for us to vote this through. I think we should offer that provision for our residents in all of our affiliated premises. I think that's kind. I think it's humane. It really, really will help the elderly residents and the disadvantaged residents in our borough. And as I say, the wider ideological implications, I think as a democratic body, as a democratic institution, we have a duty to talk about these things. And even though we are a second tier council, in our own small way, we can do something and push back against the creep of digital currency. So I look forward to a positive debate and I hope we can have a good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chewings, would you like to second the motion? You have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I happy to second the motion and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Oh, sorry, Councillor Verdon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Birch for bringing forward this motion. I recognise that behind it is a genuine concern about fairness, inclusion, and ensuring that residents can access council services in ways that work for them. Those principles we would all support. However, whilst the intention may be well meant, the motion itself does not accurately reflect the current position at Rushcliffe Borough Council, nor the way modern councils and businesses must operate in order to deliver services efficiently and responsibly. The motion suggests that residents risk being excluded from council services if cash is not universally accepted. That simply is not the case here at Rushcliffe. Cash is still accepted across a number of council services and locations. Our car parks continue to accept cash. Cash is accepted at Rushcliffe Country Park for smaller transactions. It is accepted at certain council events, including car parking arrangements. And residents can continue to pay bills through the all-pay system at post office if they wish to. In other words, the option to use cash has not disappeared. What the council has done quite sensibly is adapt certain services where customer behaviour and operational efficiency clearly support digital payment methods. For example, our leisure centres operate on a cash-free basis, a model introduced during COVID and maintained by the operator since then. Whilst there are occasional queries, the vast majority of customers accept and use the system without difficulty. And the data across our services reflects that trend. For council payments, council tax payments alone, around £118 million is collected each year. Of that total, 98 to 99% is paid through direct debit, bank transfer or card payments. Cash payments account for less than 1%. So that is not a policy choice imposed by the council. It is a clear preference of residents themselves. And we must also be honest about the operational reality of cash handling. Cash is not cost-free. It requires safes, secure storage, increased insurance cover, regular collection arrangements, reconciliation processes, and carries a higher risk of fraud as well, theft and error. Bank handling charges for coins and cash deposits have also increased significantly in years. Guaranteeing universal cash acceptance at every council premises, as the motion proposes, would therefore require additional infrastructure, staff processes and insurance coverage, all of which ultimately add cost to the council. And I do find it somewhat ironic that this proposal comes at the same time as we heard alternative budget proposals earlier that emphasise the need to reduce costs and improve efficiency. Because the reality is that cash handling is more expensive, more labour intensive and slower to process than modern electronic payment systems. That's precisely why businesses and public sector organisations across the country have been moving towards digital payment models where appropriate. Turning specifically to these three proposals, the first requests a guarantee that cash will be accepted at council premises where on-site payments are taken. As I've outlined, that would require additional infrastructure and operational costs, despite extremely low demand. The council currently accepts cash where it remains practical and proportionate. The second proposal is to require equality impact assessments and committee approval before any move to cashless operation could be considered. In practice, our existing governance processes already have equality impacts to be considered where decisions are significant enough to warrant them. Introducing a blanket requirement for committee approval for every operational payment change would simply create unnecessary bureaucracy without improving outcomes for residents. The third request is for a review of current payment arrangements and historical changes. Officers already hold this operational information and continue to monitor payment trends and service delivery in the normal course of managing council services. And finally, the motion asks that we write to partners and contractors, encouraging them to continue accepting cash. Where services are delivered by external partners such as our leisure operators, they already make decisions based on customer usage, operational performance and efficiency. And it's worth noting that our leisure centres are performing well under the current operating model. So, Mr Mayor, the key point here is Rushcliffe Borough Council is not moving towards a blanket cashless position. We already provide cash options where they are proportionate and there is genuine demand, but equally we have the responsibility to manage public resources carefully, as we just discussed in our budget debates, to modernise services where appropriate and to avoid introducing unnecessary costs.
30 seconds, Councillor Verdi.
Local taxpayers. Thank you, Mr Mayor. This motion therefore seeks to solve a problem that does not exist at Rushcliffe. For those reasons, while I appreciate the intention behind it, Councillor Burt, I cannot support the motion. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
I have a point of order, or could I request that we extend the time, please, Mr Mayor, so that the last motion can be heard? And can we move to a vote on this motion straight away, please? Thank you.
Do you have a seconder for your proposal to extend the meeting? Okay, it is proposed and seconded, so we will need to go to the vote. So all those in favour of extending the meeting? All those against? So the vote, unfortunately, is not carried.
Could I make another suggestion, please? Why not reduce the amount of time that people have to speak, which is what I did when I was mayor, in order to make sure that we finished at the correct time, and then people that have been at work all day and haven't had a meal yet might be able to get home at some reasonable time. Thank you.
I have proposed that we move straight to the next motion.
Yeah.
So have you got a seconder for that procedural motion? Councillor Gaunt. Okay, there is one speaker left to speak, and so we do. The mayor does not feel that there has been sufficient debate, and that Councillor Polenta should have the right to speak and then move to the vote.
Quick.
So I'm supposed to speak now?
Yes.
Okay. We only have 5 minutes, so you need. So I do like Councillor Bird's motion. I did write quite a few things, but I do like, because I like the ethos of the motion. I'm not going to talk about the substantive, philosophical, theological parts that he has covered, but I will talk about the cruciality of equality impacts assessment, not as a box ticking, not as an add-on, but as something very important in decision making. So whenever we make any structural changes, no matter how streamlined, how rational they may appear, we should be asking whose voices have not been heard, who has been left behind, what barriers may have been introduced, and that is not minor. So I do appreciate that sometimes in the very future we'll move in a fully digitized, avatar-like cloud economy, where maybe cash, material cash, would be in the artifacts of history. But we are not at that stage yet. We are at a very transitional stage, and I do agree, when we are during transitional stages, then new barriers may arise, or barriers may widen. And this is a very important thing, because by having areas of council operation that they do not use cash, that in a way can reduce accessibility and can marginalize and alienate people. And I agree with the Councillor Birch about the social geography of the people that do not use cash, that do use cash, and they don't have access, or they don't feel comfortable with the digitized economy. So they are the elderly people. There are people that they want to see actual material cash to understand what they are spending. They may be people with different perceptual system, different cognitive abilities, that they want to see the actual cash to understand it. They can be people with compromised status, they can be homeless people, they can be refugee people, they can be people that don't have a bank's account, and therefore they are using cash. And I think I am looking forward to hear Ted Birch coming back. So I'm going to stop here and say I will support this motion, because it does, I agree with the ethos that equal access to council facility must remain non-negotiable, and it's not a small thing.
Thank you. Councillor Birch, do you wish to say anything in reply to the debate?
I do, very quickly. Thank you. And let it be on the record that I think you're too chicken to extend the time to debate it properly. Let's move to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to the vote on the motion. All in favour? I declare that the motion is lost.
As there's now insufficient time to hear the next motion, that will go over to the next ordinary meeting of the council to be debated.
That concludes the business for this evening, and thank you very much for all attending. and I'm happy to go home and have my tea. But thank you for attending.